Welcome, director Adam Wong of The Way We Talk. Congratulations, Adam, for your audience award at the New York Asian Film Festival. At Chinoise, we really believe in the power of connection and being the bridge between all these diaspora stories. And sometimes when we watch a Hong Kong film, it always feels so far away. But having you here in North America and being able to talk to you is so wonderful. Before we start, I learned a lot from your film, and I want to give you a huge respect that I learned from the sign language.
Thank you. This is Hong Kong sign language. Yeah. Right.
And what a riveting and what a touching film. So, can you share with us a little bit about what inspires you to create such a brilliant and introspective film about the stories of deaf individuals?
Right. Yeah. I think the original impulse of making this movie should date back 5 years ago when I read a short script. There was a scenes about deaf people signing underwater. So
Mm,
that scene inspired me a lot because maybe I used to think deaf people using sign language has a disadvantage in a mainstream hearing world. But that scene inspired me to think actually the deaf people who can sign is the people who talk the best underwater, right? Who can communicate the best. Whether it's a disadvantage or advantage is conditional. Yeah, that make me think like that. And so I start to become interested in deaf culture.
mm,
That script writer of that short script called Seeking, we have a conversation about what deaf culture is. And actually, it's more like she told me a lot about what she learned about deaf culture because she knows sign language and she had many deaf friends.
mm,
And I start to realize actually to many deaf people, they don't consider deafness as a disability, but rather is their culture because they have a certain mutual habit in their life and in their living style. And I think most importantly is they have sign language, which is
mm,
a very powerful, expressive, and effective language for them to communicate. That's why so many deaf people will emphasize their own identity as a deaf person. So I
mm,
remember at that time I asked this scriptwriter a question. She's hearing, but she knows much about deaf culture and she knows sign language. I asked her, does it mean that to some deaf people who treasure their identity so much, they would not consider the choice of being hearing someday? Just imagine if there's a magical device that they use and then they can become hearing right away. Does it
mm,
mean they would not consider that choice? And
mhm.
then the answer from her was yes. I was like hit by on the acupuncture point, and I have the big impulse. It's a big hit on me that I decided that my next movie should be on this topic, which is about deaf identity and which is about true selves.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
really interesting because, a lot of people, they come from the perspective of, oh, it's so personal to me or I experienced it. And I was going to ask you, is there
Mm.
someone in your family or your network? But truly, it was someone who brought you a script and then got you into the deaf culture. And I think that's amazing. That's actually very fascinating. Which brings me to the next question. Like,
Yeah.
I felt very deeply. Like, the film was so quiet and it just drew me right in. Like, I couldn't put it down once I started. It really connects people who are hearing, like myself,
Mm.
to have a glimpse just for those 2 hours, right? To
Mm.
connect with the struggles, the normality actually of their humanity, the life process, the experiences, and it felt so real. I love the use of like sound. Recently we discovered that like with Hong Kong films, there's a lot of like social issues that have become more conscious of the narrative. It's really getting into seeing people who are different as equals, right?
Mm.
And really going through from their perspective to see
Mm.
life. And I think
Mm.
that this film does that as well. Not speaking from an outsider lens or top-down lens, but truly inviting audiences into the subject's world. In this film, it belongs to the deaf community. How challenging it was it for you
Mm.
to maintain that insider perspective with authenticity? How do you maintain that realness because you yourself are hearing, right?
Right.
So, which are the collaborators during the filming process that really helped with this?
Yeah. Right. This is a very good and important question because, yeah, I always tell people that the most difficulty of making this film was that I am hearing, yeah, and I have to make a movie on the deaf culture and deaf identity topic. And because the thing that struck me the most from the first place was the confidence of deaf identity. So when
Mm,
I make this movie, I have to use the angle. I try to use as much as possible the angle of deaf person. and three different kinds of deaf person point of view or point of hearing to depict the story. Yeah, because there are other movie on the deaf topic from the hearing person point of view, which is not right or wrong matters. But this time, because I was touched by deaf identity, so that the story has to be told in deaf people's point of view, but I am hearing. That is the most difficult part. How to tackle it? First of all, I have to respect the culture truly and deeply. I realize it. And also, I have to learn sign language myself.
Wow.
Yeah. And have to do lots of research. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the spirit of looking for the truth is very important to me and to my whole creative team. So we don't dramatize things, we don't romanticize things, but we try to, yeah, search for the very much detail, yeah, according to our research. And of course, one more point is the deaf participation is very important. Besides the actors, we have lots of actual deaf actors participating. And also one role which is very special and very important to this film is the sign language coach. Yeah, we have two sign language coach. One and the most important one is a deaf person. Yeah, called Seabird. He is the first one in the roller. Yeah, our deaf sign language coach. And he is also the deaf culture consultant of this movie. So we work a lot with each other. It always go back and forth. The sign language code translate all the written dialogue into sign language to teach and coach the actors to act in the sign language. And also in writing the script, whenever I have some problem, I ask him, yeah, is it okay? Would a deaf people behave in this way? What a deaf people would behave in a situation like that? So all the things are proofread by deaf people. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. Because from what I read online, I think Ying, he and also the other actor for Wolf, right, Neo
Mm.
Yao, they both didn't know sign language either, right? So they had to learn it for this film, right?
So Chung actually she knows a little bit sign language. Yeah,
Oh,
that is why I'm connected with her from the first place. Yeah,
oh,
of course she's not very pro, but she learned a bit sign language because of her father's job, I think, and she worked as a volunteer to help the deaf people in studies, I think. Yeah,
mm,
so she knows sign language and the deaf culture. Yeah,
oh,
that is why I think I'm in sync with her when talking about this story. That is why I finally chose her, yeah, to
yeah.
act the role as Sophie. Liu Yao, totally hearing, never learned sign language before, but he know that as a hearing person to act a deaf role, which is an issue. I told him it is very arguable. So you have to really respect this sign language culture, deaf identity. You have to truly know why those deaf people, why Zisun move in the movie, make those choices. Yeah,
Mhm.
you don't use an exotic gaze to look at this role and thinking that, this is a chance for you to win an award to act a minority role. And he totally got it. And he really spent so much effort learning sign language from our sign language coach, Seabird. We called it like a half a year intensive hell level intensity of sign language learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it paid off because honestly, it really gripped you because he was so like pointed in his mannerism. And also the younger actor that was the mini version of him, the younger version of him. They both
Right.
did so well. Like they looked like each other. They were casted so well, but they
Yeah.
also signed so well. And of course, Sophie's role, like with Zhong Xuying, I thought it was so pure and the way that it was like poetry, the way her hands were moving. So well done. Yeah. So are you really happy then with the response of this film globally and in Hong Kong? Like tell me what are the most wonderful things that people have said to you in response, like in their pure emotional response to the film?
Yeah, I care the response from the deaf community the most, actually. So
Mm.
there are quite some remarkable feedback from deaf audience. Yeah, there was I think like a woman at her 70s years old, a deaf lady. She watched the film and told us, of course, use sign language, that this is her first ever movie that she could understand. Yeah. I
Wow.
think meaning that she could have a full feeling of watching a whole movie and she can feel it and she can understand it. So
Hmm.
I think this is such a compliment and such a big endorsement to me as a hearing person working on a movie on deaf topic. I also treasure how the deaf people in other, in the non-Hong Kong community in the Western country, how they think about the depiction of the deafness. And our premiere was in UK. Yeah, last year's October in the British Film Institute London Film Festival, and we attracted a group of local deaf audience to watch the film. And after the screening, many of them are so enthusiastic, telling us their feeling, their feedback using sign language at the Q&A section. And many of them, just say the comments like this movie really tell their own story. Yeah. So the issue that mentioned in the movie is not just Hong Kong, although my all the research are Hong Kong based, but actually this is a global problem. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Like, look what your creation has done, right? For the deaf community, they feel represented. And like you said, that lady had her first full movie experience. And then for people like hearing, like myself, like we got a first glimpse of the other way, right? That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. The way we talk is such a rich and layered portrayal towards like self-discovery and identity. And I think from your other works, like the Way We Dance series, as
Mm.
well as She Remembers, He Forgets. And now this, like you've been creating films for over 2 decades. What does this film mean to you professionally and personally? And then what does that open for you coming up next?
Wow, this film is very important for me. I would say 12 years ago, The Way We Dance is a milestone in my creative career because I was just a very amateur indie filmmaker to be recognized as a feature film director, which was 12 years ago, The Way We Dance. It was a rather popular movie, but this time I think it brings me to another level. Yeah, and I'm very satisfied. Yeah, honestly saying, I'm very satisfied with the result. Yeah, of course, I still know there are lots of bugs in this movie. There are lots of things that didn't do well enough in this movie. But I think I try so much to make a better movie. And somehow I think I did it. Yeah. For the part I didn't do well enough, I hope next time I can improve. Maybe one of the reasons is this is the first time to looking for the real and the truth, the spirit prevail in this movie. Yeah, prevail in this movie. It's not easy for me. Yeah, and by overcoming all these difficulties, I think what I want to achieve was there. It brings my work to a wider world, yeah, on this earth. One of the reasons is also because nowadays there are many Hong Kong's people, more and more Hong Kong people living overseas. Because all these Hong Kong people overseas, they want to see Hong Kong movie. Somehow, because of this bring this movie to more places in the world, and it goes beyond the Hong Kong community. Yeah, that is what I hope to do. And so I hope my next film can go even further while making a local Hong Kong film, making story of my home place because of my concern, of my feeling to my home, it can attract more people around the world.
Hmm. It's like so many things in one, right? Because first of all, like I think what you said earlier about finding the truth
Mm,
and really like taking care of the subject matter and all that, it really comes through. Like the care you took and the honesty. It was very slow, like it was very subtle, just like life, right? But you unraveled it in each of the characters. It's, they're all coming of age, becoming their own accomplished selves. It is quite shocking, right? To like a regular hearing person, they're thinking like, why wouldn't someone want to keep a hearing device, right? In this case, a CI, maybe it's a hearing aid, or maybe, whatever the device is. Or why wouldn't you want this opportunity? But you're right, like you really like opened it up one layer at a time, and it was very raw and very honest, which I think, not everyone likes honesty, but I think this type of honesty we need more of because it helps us to see that between people there's more that we have in common in our struggles
mm,
than we think. It doesn't matter if you're deaf or if you're blind or if you're, you have all those abilities. We will have different areas of struggle, right? I know in the film where Alan challenges Sophie saying like, "Oh, 你知唔知幾幸福啊?" And then she's like, don't
Oh,
you even start, right? And it's
yeah.
true. Like oftentimes we always have first world problems, all of us do, right? But the thing is there's still an internal struggle. And I think you were so honest with that struggle, so beautifully done. Of course, when you have this kind of beauty and you have a language like sign language, which is universal, really, like international, I'm so proud of you and so happy for you that like your work can satisfy yourself, but also draw in so many people to appreciate Hong Kong. Because there were a lot of, yeah, beautiful like subtleties there, like whether it's the school that they were raised in or like the way that the stages in a school present different community events. Being somebody who is a descendant of a Hong Kong mother, I noticed all the beautiful scenes and vignettes that you took down in your film. So that was really nice. I wanted to ask though, it was probably something you also treated very carefully. So in the film, the tension between like the organization that wanted her to be the ambassador for
Mm.
cochlear implants, right? The CI device versus like she really wanted to also help well preserve like that culture of like
Yeah.
signing, right? Did you try to intentionally heighten this contrast to reflect the real life dilemma? Was it a little bit dramatized, or is this something that like the deaf community told you, yeah, this is the problem, like people don't get it, like we want to keep this, and tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I think the thinking, the thought of some people who try to encourage the use of CI and thinking that we should believe in technology. Technology can, give you a better life,
Mm,
and you should open up yourself to become a hearing person.
mm,
Yeah, so CI is the surveyor to deaf people.
mm,
The people who have this mentality would always think sign language is just a substitute. That is just a temporary thing. If there's a choice, maybe no one would want to use sign language.
mm,
Yeah. I
mm,
think this mentality was there.
mm,
Yeah. In the reality, there are so many people. I cannot say so many. Actually, there's less and less. Yeah. But in the past history, from now, there are certain amount of a dominant, a significant amount of people having this concept. Yeah.
mm,
And it is this concept that hurt the deaf people who really couldn't use this device effectively, this CI device. And for those people who truly need sign language, this kind of mentality is very bad to them. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
They're
hurt
hurtful.
them so much, it's destroyed their whole growth. Yeah, so that scene you mentioned represents some organization still having this kind of idea. According to my research, although this kind of thinking is getting less and less, but there are still some people thinking this way, and there are still some organization, I have to say, still keep this mentality. But of course, it cannot be too obviously, say that I'm against sign language. No, and I believe they don't really want to deprive the right of using sign language, but they still think speaking is better, for all the people, regardless of your condition. This
Mm.
is problematic. So that scene represents this mentality. Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, you did it so well. Zhong Ying's character captured that struggle so well because the whole time, like as an audience, you're hearing the cat yama, like all the
Yeah.
sounds, and it's like you're like, yeah, this is what she's hearing, and like, is it really better? And it really puts the audience in that position of critically thinking about how they feel.
Right.
And that scene where she's so expressive, like she's talking and her speech is obviously not as smooth as somebody who is of full hearing, but the way that she was talking like that, but then also like so expressively, like she was very fluent in her sign language by that time, right? In that scene, and how they stopped her and the director asked to cut.
Yeah.
I just my heart broke for her. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, she portrayed that so well. Because like you said, many people might think like, oh, speaking is better or it's superior or like sign language is a supplement, right? But in her case, like her character is saying she couldn't even fully feel like she could express herself until she had sign language, which she was prohibited. But that's so interesting. So that concept of society like having teachers who like forced
Mm.
deaf students to speak, how
Yeah.
long did that go on for? Like when did that change?
Yeah, it sounds very ridiculous if you're seeing it from nowadays point of view, but actually, ridiculously, it lasts until 2010. Before
Oh,
2010, the mainstream policy of deaf education was like that.
oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So deaf people going to deaf school before that time, they don't learn sign language. But on the other hand, is the other side is you are prohibited to use sign language in school, which is not just the phenomenon in Hong Kong, but all over the world. Because before it was the belief that using sign language would avoid deaf people to learn orally. Yeah.
Mm,
And then they have difficulty to accommodate to this mainstream world. Yeah,
Mm,
but this idea was basically publicly apologized. The International Deaf Education Organization at 2010, they announced that it was a wrong thing. They admit and basically they apologize. And they declare that we should respect any means which is effective to deaf people for them to learn and for them to grow up. Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe it. 2010.
Mm.
That's very recent. This is like so educational. A lot of times educational films, they don't have this level of emotion, but it seems like your film did check so many boxes. So congratulations again. So all three actors, the main actors, like they did such a brilliant job expressing authenticity on the screen. Were there any particular moments for you in like for each of the three of them that really stood out to you? Like it gripped your heart when you're on the set, like wow, like tell me a few moments maybe.
Okay, if you're talking about three of them, I think I was very touched by the scene where Sophie signed on her bed. There was a scene that she was scolded by her mother because she admitted to her that I am a deaf person. So she just slammed the door and hid herself, in her room. And she just woke up in the darkness and starting to sign in front of a cell phone to sign
Mhm.
her homework, to sign her sign language homework to Wolf. And she used sign language, tell Wolf how sign language has light up her life and how she felt that it was the first time I felt I was really, truly speaking and expressing myself. That scene, I was very touched. Even in the location when I was shooting this scene in front of the camera, I was deeply touched. Yeah. To mention, the most memorable scene to me, the most emotional scene to me, I want to also mention another scene where that two boys was punished and stand on the corridor. Yeah, that scene I was very touched too.
Yeah, I love the part where hopefully I don't spoil it for too many audience members, but when Little Wolf was like, wow,
Yeah.
and he just like sent him it's almost like he could
Yeah.
communicate that better than words, right? It's just like
Yeah.
it's like a Dragon Ball version of love to
Yeah.
his friend. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, that really got me too. That was really nice. What are the plans with this film? First of all, it's not even finished yet, right? You're in North America, you're still at these film festivals. What's the rest of this run look like for this film? Like, what do you want to do with it still before we talk about the future?
Yes, you are the first one to ask me about this because normally the interviewer would like to ask me what's my next film and think this film is done. So what's my next film? But yeah, then I would answer actually, I don't feel this film is done.
It's not done. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because we are still, yeah, going on this journey. It has been a long journey. Yeah. I think I treasure this North American release very much. Yeah. And it has the longest overseas journey for this film. Last month, it went to UK. Yeah. And we also went to different film festival around the world. This time in this UK, we start from New York and then to Canada, Toronto, Vancouver, and now back to San Francisco, and then later to LA. In this whole trip, I got lots of welcome and feedback from the audience, and mostly, from Hong Kong audience here. And I reunion with many friends. Some of them I didn't know they have immigrated. Of course, it also include the locals in different area, yeah, and also the deaf people. I feel very grateful to this whole journey, and I got lots of insight too. And I think I've been traveling for so long, right? This whole long journey of this film, I've been talking to I don't know how many audience, over thousands audience, I think. But still in the Q&A session, like in this trip, new questions still coming out. New discovery of this movie still comes out. I feel
Right.
very blessed. It will continue. There are some deaf film festival we have submit this film too. So I'm really looking forward to whether that film festival will accept my entry because I think as a hearing person making a deaf movie, if it could be recognized by a authentic deaf film festival, it would be such an honor. So I'm still looking forward to the result.
That's amazing. Like I think savor the moment, like I said, it's so special, right? To have a journey like this one and then to have it be so successful, but also not successful in the typical way. Like not like, oh yeah, you're like a Hollywood studio with a blockbuster. It's not like that. It's like a very quiet, honest film that has touched so many people's hearts. And so I think it's like wonderful that you've had this feedback from North America for so many different reasons, right? For Hong Kong film, for yourself as a creator, and also for the deaf community, but also for the people who are in the film and put in the work to understand the deaf community. Huge celebration should be in order for you guys. But yeah, in Canada, we will continue to spread the word about your film. And we actually hope to see more films from you on these societal issues, maybe even another deaf culture film because you did it so well. Like you can go layers deeper. But in the meantime, do you have anything to say to our Canadian audience to kind of invite them to watch the film?
Hi, Fashion One's audience. I'm Adam Wong, the director of The Way We Talk. I'm very happy to bring my film to meet you all here in North America. This movie is about the growth of three different deaf persons. How do they struggle and find their true identity? And it is a movie about finding your true self. And it's about how do you communicate to the world. I hope you can find something from this film. In bringing this movie to many places around the world, I met lots of Hong Kong audience. They like the film, and thank you very much. If you like it, please spread your word to your Hong Kong friends, also to all your friends from different places in the world. I hope this film can go to a wider world.
Thank you so much, Adam. We're so happy that your production represents not only your city, but represents the global community of both the deaf culture and those who want to understand better. And we are all going through life together. And so I thank you for such a beautiful film, for showing humanity on the screen. And I hope that you'll continue to make such human and such heartwarming films in your career as it continues to blossom and shine. So thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations again on your award at the New York Asian Film Festival. We hope that you win lots more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.